Did you know that New Year's is one of the toughest days in the year for those who are grieving? I had no idea, and yet last year, in the days preceding New Year's, I really felt myself triggered in my grief. I felt very emotional, very heavy. I was really missing my son, Aaron. And at the time, I was fortunate enough to be a part of David Kessler's grief support group. He came in and he spoke about how and why New Year's is such a tough time for those in grief. And so this year I really wanted to share this information to help more people, because it really helped me immensely. It made such a difference for me on New Year's. It was still tough, of course, but it really did make a difference. On New Year's, most people are celebrating. Traditionally, it's a time for new beginnings. But for grievers, it can feel like we're moving further away. When we move into a new year, it's almost like we're leaving our loved one behind, and it's moving us further away from them. And moving into a new year without our loved one is not what we want. And so that intensifies and it triggers our grief. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how we can look at this a little bit differently. How we can integrate our grief into the new year and bring our loved one with us and honor them in ways moving forward. So we're not leaving them behind, we're bringing them with us. Hi, I'm Christy Roberts, mindset and results coach, grief educator, self-directed healing practitioner, and the founder of Creating Change. It can be helpful to realize that New Year's, it's just another day in the calendar. And we choose what meaning we allocate to that day. So we can choose to honor our loved one on New Year's. We can choose to connect with them in our heart. We can choose to bring them with us. And we can choose to create new rituals around New Year's that are helpful for us moving forward. Choosing to bring them with us is a really powerful way so that we don't feel that we're leaving them behind. What we're leaving behind is the tragedy of their death. We're putting space between the tragedy and the trauma of the day they died. That's where we're putting space between. But we don't need to put space between us. You know, that movement into the new year, it's just another day. Last year, after really struggling with this, I decided that I was going to connect with Aaron even more in the new year. I was going to work on my connection with him and work on ways to honor him and continue to honor him. And that really made a difference. It was a significant shift for me, because that sort of moving away from his death and moving further away from the year that he died in was hard. Once I made that decision, I immediately felt more lighter, I felt more comfortable, I felt more peaceful with that decision, making it a lot easier. It was still hard, but it really did make a difference. You can take time on the new year to wish your loved one a new year. You can take time to connect with them. You can think of it as though you're moving further away from the trauma and the tragedy of their death. You're bringing them with you, but you're moving further away from that day, but not further away from them. And remember, we do live in a grief illiterate world. People don't know what to say to us. They don't know whether to bring it up, not bring it up. It can really help to say what we want. Be quite direct, so ask direct questions. Tell people what you need, tell people what you want, tell people what's working for you, what's not working for you. Because the more you can advocate for yourself and for what you need, the easier it is for them to support us in our grief. Another good activity to consider is, what part of your grief would you like to leave behind? What part of your grief would you like to leave in the previous year that you don't want to bring with you into the new year? How do you want your grief to look different in the new year? And what parts of your grief would you like to bring with you or create more room for in the upcoming year? Sometimes in grief, it might feel like we're saying goodbye. I don't agree at all. I see grief as an opportunity, or New Year's as a great opportunity to say hello again, to revisit our grief and to really get creative around what we want it to look like moving forward and how we want that connection with our loved one to be. What parts we don't want anymore, leave them behind. If they're not serving you, if they're not kind, if they're not nurturing you and supporting you, get rid of them. You don't need them. Ask yourself, is it useful for my loved one to remain absent in my life? Because saying goodbye, you're leaving them behind. But is that really useful? I know incorporating Aaron into just about everything I do is a really helpful strategy that I use in my grief. So I'm always looking for ways to bring Aaron into my work and incorporate my grief into what I do. And remember, look after yourself, be kind, love yourself, nurture yourself, eat healthy foods, drink lots of water, do what you need to do so that you can show up for yourself and for honoring your loved one as best you can. It is a tough time. So, go easy on yourself. Please don't judge your grief. If you're struggling, please reach out. There is support available. And remember, your grief is love. No one can take our love away from us, so it makes sense to bring our love with us. It's meaningful. And New Year's is a really good time to do this. So I trust this video serves you today, and blessings for your new year ahead and for your dearly beloved. Thank you.